Secretary,
It was done by
the address is
officials.
registered to a political
It was
operative.
dollars that were spent
Madam Secretary, the
to
company,
inform
and then I'll
people
give you an
that the
opportunity to
laws-
respond.
Look,
The company is registered to a political operative in
14 billion
Virginia.
impressions
Do you
of
know,
marketing campaigns
just by way of
in
example,
countries that
whether
the
this
promotion
company
was
that
coming
received
from
$143 million in taxpayer dollars
Congress suddenly went tense when Joe Neguse raised a direct question about a $220 million government ad contract. According to records, $143 million in taxpayer money went to a company that had no website and no known history of working with the federal government. And the most surprising detail is this: that company was reportedly created just 8 days before the contract was issued. So the question is simple: how does a brand new company receive a government contract worth more than $200 million? When Neguse asked Kristi Noem about this directly, the tone of the hearing quickly changed. I'll explain the rest in a moment. First, watch this clip.
In particular, I want to discuss the department's $220 million ad campaign. This is the ad campaign that featured you at Mount Rushmore. You're familiar with this ad campaign, correct?
I am familiar with it. It was an ad
So
campaign that was.
I'm going to ask you some
placed
questions about it,
to-
Madam Secretary. So,
Okay.
as I understand it, this is a $220 million ad campaign. It's split between two contractors. One of those contractors got $143 million. That contractor is called Safe America Media, correct?
Correct.
Okay. That company is affiliated with a former political director of the National Republican Congressional Committee. Now, yesterday you testified, I think I'm quoting you right, you said, quote, or in reference to this contract, that, quote, it went out to a competitive bid. Do you stand by that statement?
It was a no-bid contract where two vendors were.
It was a no-bid
chosen.
contract.
If it would have been a no-bid contract, if I'm using that correctly, it goes out to two different vendors.
Correct. So it was
There
not a
many
competitive.
media-
Let me try to explain
agency.
what the discrepancy, because a competitive bid is very different than a no competitive bid, and I'll just explain why. We know that your testimony yesterday, when you said, again, I'll quote, it went out to a competitive bid, is untrue. The reason we know it's untrue is because under federal law, your agency is required, whenever the agency decides to skip competitive bidding, to file a notice with the public explaining why. And in this case,
Right.
your agency filed a notice.
Right.
You're aware of that,
Right.
right? Justification and approval for other than full and open competition. Your agency made a decision not to proceed with competitive bidding, and one of the contractors that got the award was this Safe America Media Company that received $143 million.
Many
right?
vendors got the chance to look at that contract and to participate in it.
Well,
So that is why the two of them were
that's
chosen.
inaccurate, Madam Secretary. I'll read from the notice from your agency. Given the immediate action to significantly reduce illegal immigration and border crossings, DHS identified 4 companies. 4 of the hundreds of thousands of companies in the United States, you identified 4. One of those is this Safe America Media Company. Where is Safe America Media headquartered?
I don't know.
I don't know either, Madam Secretary. We can't find it. We can't find a website. We did find an address that's registered for this company. Do you know where that address is?
Is there a problem with this contract?
I'll
Because
tell you
it was
about
done
it.
according to
Madam
law.
Secretary,
It was done by
the
career
address is
officials.
registered to a political
It was
operative.
dollars that were spent
Madam Secretary, the
to
company,
inform
and then
people
I'll give you an
that the
opportunity to
laws-
respond. The company is registered to a political operative in Virginia. Do you know, just by way of example, whether this company that received $143 million in taxpayer dollars, has it ever done work for the government before?
I don't know. I can't.
The answer is it has not. And do you know why we know that? Because it was incorporated 8 days before this contract went out. You want the American people to believe that this is all above board?
Yes,
that $143 million of taxpayer money just happened to go to this one company that doesn't have a headquarters, doesn't have a website, has never done work for the federal government before, and is registered apparently or attached to a residence from a political operative. And of course, one of the subcontractors of that contract, as you know, is a political firm that's tied to you back when you were governor of South Dakota. The reason why I ask these questions is that this is taxpayer money. And I presume, I don't know this for a fact, but Senator Tillis noted yesterday the way in which your agency is blocking the Inspector General from 11 different investigations that it is trying to conduct. I don't know if this happens to be one of them. I certainly hope it is, because eventually the facts will become public in this regard. And there are serious laws implicated, conflict of interest laws, federal procurement laws, that I believe
All
merit...
followed, all done correctly,
Was
all
it-
done
all
legally.
done correctly?
14 billion impressions
Well,
from that
the-
marketing campaign.
sure.
It was money spent in this country and in 8 different countries that illegal migration was coming from.
Madam Secretary,
Overwhelmingly
yeah,
effective.
we all
$49
understand the argument that you've
billion.
made, that somehow this ad campaign on Fox News of you at Mount Rushmore has led to millions of people self-deporting. You're
Why do you-
using
why do you think
millions
that
of
they did
dollars of
self-deport? Had they
taxpayer
not known?
money in this way. It is fraud, and ultimately, I think there's going to be accountability. And I yield back, Madam.
Can I speak to the IG?
Yes, you can. Quick.
The IG has been told repeatedly, in writing, verbally, on the phone, that he can have access to anything at the Department of Homeland Security. He can. He doesn't need my permission to come and brief members of Congress on the Hill. He just needs to provide a scoping memo, which is what every single IG gets from every single department and agency. All intelligence agencies require a scoping memo. He just hasn't done that. He wants unfettered access to every single thing in the department, and that's not the process, and that's not any other IG has demanded that.
Now, what you just watched was not only a tense exchange inside a hearing room. The issue here is much larger. When a government department launches a campaign worth hundreds of millions of dollars, there is an entire federal procurement system behind it. That system is now getting attention. In the United States, large government contracts are normally awarded through open competition. This process is called competitive bidding. The goal is simple. Different companies submit proposals, the government compares price and capability, and the contract is awarded to the company that appears most qualified to do the work. However, federal law also allows agencies to use limited competition in certain situations. This usually happens when a department believes the work must move quickly, or when officials believe only a small number of companies are able to perform the task within the required time frame. This is often where debate begins. Once competition becomes limited, lawmakers usually want to understand why that decision was made and what justification was used. Government advertising campaigns follow similar rules. Different federal departments have used large public messaging campaigns for years. These campaigns often focus on issues such as health, safety, or immigration policy. Agencies buy media space across television, digital platforms, and sometimes international networks. The purpose is usually to inform people about the law, warn about risks, or influence behavior through public messaging. The Department of Homeland Security has used these types of campaigns before. For several years, the department has broadcast messages in different countries explaining how United States border laws work and what the legal consequences of illegal entry may be. But in this case, the scale of the campaign is one reason it is drawing attention. When spending rises above $200 million, lawmakers and media organizations often take a closer look at how the program was structured and how contracts were awarded. Another important part of the American system is congressional oversight. Congress does not only pass laws, it also monitors how federal agencies use public funds that lawmakers approve in the budget. Hearings like the one you just watched are part of that oversight process. Members ask detailed questions in order to understand the timeline of decisions, the companies involved, and the reasoning behind the final contract awards. Sometimes these exchanges can appear intense, but questioning government spending is considered a normal and necessary part of democratic accountability. When taxpayer money is involved, officials are expected to explain their decisions on the public record. There is also another institution that often becomes important in situations like this. That office is the Inspector General. Most major federal departments have an independent Inspector General whose job is to review internal operations and investigate potential problems. If concerns arise about a government program, the Inspector General's office can review documents, examine communications, and analyze how contracts were issued. Reports from the Inspector General can later become public. In some cases, those reports shape future policy discussions or even lead to additional investigations. That is why when questions arise about a major federal program, observers often want to know whether any formal review is taking place. It is also important to remember that statements made during a hearing are not final conclusions. Congressional hearings often represent the beginning of a fact-gathering process rather than the final outcome. Additional documents can emerge later. Agencies may provide further explanations. Independent investigators may release findings that add more context to the situation. What is clear right now is that the discussion has expanded beyond a single advertising campaign. It has become part of a broader debate about government transparency and how large federal contracts are managed. The United States government spends trillions of dollars every year. Because of that scale, oversight and public scrutiny remain central parts of the system. Whenever lawmakers raise questions in hearings like this, the goal is usually to clarify the record and ensure that public funds are used in a way that follows the law and established procedures. If more documents or investigative findings appear in the future, the details of this advertising campaign may become clearer. For now, the hearing has once again brought attention to a core issue in democratic government: how taxpayer money is spent and how transparent that process remains. If you want to see more important hearings and clear fact-based breakdowns like this, subscribe to the channel and share the video so you do not miss the next update.